Hello, everyone. I'm Karen Greer with Secure Content Technologies, and I'm really happy to be here today with my friend and colleague, Michael Wright with Securely. And Securely is all about keeping students safe, secure, and ready to learn each day. And today we're here to talk to you about Securely Pass and how you can utilize that in your school to help keep your students safe and keep yourself updated on what they're doing during the day. With that, Michael, I'm going to pass it to you and let you dive into Securely Pass for these folks.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Karen. So, as a former administrator and educator, I have lived the hallways and know some of those issues that go on in our daily lives as an educator. One of the things that I love to show about Digital Hall Pass is some of those things that kind of help mitigate some of those problems that we have, put preventive measures in place, and create that visibility within our buildings. So I'm going to show you on a tour here of the Digital Hall Pass. Some of the things that I hear from administrators across the nation are vaping is an issue, maybe that bullying incidents happening on a daily basis. Maybe it would be that vandalization that's happening in our hallways, or just that simple meetups of those boyfriend, girlfriends, or whatever that may be. So let's talk a little bit about limits and how we can prevent those things here. So let's show you a little bit of the program. Now, on our program, it is browser-based, so it can be on any type of device. We schools that have schools that use one-to-one devices for this. We also have schools that may not have one-to-one devices, whether it be cards or whatever, and they can use what's called a kiosk mode and have one device in the room to be able to use as kind of like a portal for those students to sign out and go to those destinations. So what PASS is creating is a digital footprint that we can be able to see and be able to put those preventive measures into place here. So on our dashboard here, we see a very intuitive dashboard that's very easy for adults as well as students in our building. With that said, let's talk about those limits as we kind of go here. Now, one of the first limits that I like to talk about is our max capacity. Max capacity is basically setting a limit on how many students are in a location. And so if we have maybe 4 stalls in the bathroom, we want to limit that probably to 4. That way we don't have an excess amount of students in there and creating idle time for those students to maybe get into a little bit of mischief that may happen for that. The second one that I really like to show is what's called contact control. I like to refer to this one as maybe the Romeo and Juliet, the vapor, the vandalizer, or really just bully prevention. And so putting this in place, we can prevent 2 students from being out of the hallway at the same time. And so if student A is in the hallway, student B would get a message like this. Currently, the hallways are full. Please try again later. And so that student will have to try again later. Now we can see how many times that is triggered. And so with that setting, we can then convey that message to the teachers that we are doing the right things because it's kept those kids in the seat that many times. And then that way they do not have to reteach for that. We do have a student pass limit that we can set on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or even custom range. I see a lot of schools using this on a daily basis. If we have all students in here, we can set maybe a limit of 0 for that student that maybe just cannot be out in the hallways by themselves. Or maybe we can set that a little higher if a student maybe has a 504 plan, an IEP plan, or something in very special circumstances. That way we can have that for that. Now, we do have pass limits for the building as an umbrella and how many students can be out in the hallway, as well as we can limit certain location availability, whether it be access denied or maybe even a members only to where only those students can access a specific locations for that. Okay. Now, getting into our reporting, I always love to show this reporting is that we can search by teachers, we can search by student, we can search by destinations. We can also look at specific locations to see how many passes are handed out and who went to that location. Maybe those adults and see how many passes are being handed out from those adults, or even those students and who is leading the pack with those students for that. So all this data piece can be downloaded into a CSV and print it off and have that ready for that parent-teacher conference, maybe that IEP meeting, or even that 504 meeting for that. Now, we do have what's called a meetup report. And with our hallways, being a former administrator, I see sometimes on an hourly basis that same student going through the halls. And I said, "Didn't I see you last hour?" And so we may know that they may be in the hallway, but do we know that they're meeting up with someone? And we can't be everywhere at every time. And so what we can do is pull a student here and look at the data piece and say, okay, I'm going to look at Cadence here, and I'm going to look for this year to see who she possibly was cross-referenced with in the hallway at the same time. So what this report will give me is two other students that have been in the hallway in multiple times this year. So with that said, we could put that preventive measure in place, that contact control, to be able to mitigate those things. So as a story of our administrators, with those preventive measures in place, they're seeing a reduction in discipline of 50, 60, even 70% based off of those preventive measures in place for that. Okay? Now, moving on to our dashboard, on here, we can see that there is a student out in the hallway. So the visibility of being able to see what students are in the hallway at what given time is very important. We can import pictures into it, whether you're a small school or a big school. We like to see who's out in the hallway and be able to recognize that and identify them at any point in time. Now, we do have an iOS and Android app out, and that is great for adults that are in the building and maybe need to see who is in the hallway and maybe able to help that. Now, this pass here is yellow. Our normal passes are usually green because this pass is yellow for the long running rule. So we have what is called a long running rule. And you can set that at 3+ minutes, 5+ minutes. And so that pass will turn yellow whenever that goes past that time. And then that indicates we probably need to check in on that student for that. Now, with that said, I'm going to kind of switch over here to show you the feasibility of the student and the teacher and how that interaction happens with that. So I'm going to hop over here to our screens. Of the left side is our teacher and the right side is our student. Okay. Now, with that said, with the student, they can do it on the one-to-one device. And we also talked about what's called a kiosk mode. A kiosk mode can have one device set up in a room. Usually we see this in our PE settings, our music settings, maybe our shop settings, or even the lunchroom. Now, some schools will prefer to have just the kiosk mode in every single room. And a student will go to that device, select the location they're going to, start that pass, come back and end that pass. So we have that digital footprint to be able to see on those summary reports or whatever that may be. Now, students can take ownership in how many passes they have left right here on their dashboard. They can also request appointments, which we'll talk about here in just a second on our dashboard too. Now, students will favorite their favorite teacher of the year, their schedule, and they'll also favorite those destinations here. Now, Cadence is the student in our classroom today, and she is in Mrs. Sherry's classroom. So Cadence is going to take her Chromebook, select Mrs. Sherry, and select the destination, which is the bathroom, and then hit submit. Now, what that does is bring a pass into our system and waiting for approval. Now, up to this point, the teacher did not have to do anything in this process. And that's what we want, is that feasibility and easeability for that teacher to be able to use this system here. Now, with that said, the next step is, how does this work from here? So how to approve a pass. There's 3 different ways that the teacher can approve this pass. Now notice that on our tab, we see that there's a 1 on the left-hand side. That means that there's a pass waiting for approval. If the 1 would be on the right-hand side, that means how many students are out in the hallway from that specific teacher on that tab. Now, the teacher can see on the dashboard that Cadence has put a pass in for waiting for approval, and that teacher could approve that pass on the dashboard with one click. Now, We don't necessarily want our teachers tied to that dashboard. We want them interacting with the students moving around the room. And so as Mrs. Sherry is walking around the room, she can go to Cadence's Chromebook at her desk, click on her name, and then type in a pin that is designated by that teacher, and that teacher can change at any point in time. Now, what's great about our pin system is we have subs in our building all the time, and that secretary can check out a pin for the day if that substitute doesn't have the device and be able to approve that pass on those student devices. So we're still keeping that digital footprint alive while that substitute is in the building for that. Now, our third one is probably one of our favorites of our teachers. Is called an auto pass. Now, an auto pass is what it is be able to have the student to start and or stop that pass. And so with that said, an administrator or administrative team can set up locations in their building to be used as an auto pass. And then from there, the teacher can choose the destinations they want to use as an auto pass. More often than not, we see our teachers take and choose the locations that are closest to them. And if the student then chooses a bathroom that is not that location they chose, then the teacher has to approve that pass. Then the teacher can redirect really quick and say, no, you need to use my auto pass bathroom that I've selected for that. Now, what's great is we can set a limit of how many students are out at any given time. And I always recommend using that one as the limit for that. So what we have now is Cadence has a start button on our device. So if let's kind of back up a little bit, Cadence is going to say, hey, Mrs. Sherry, can I use restroom real quick? Miss Sherry is going to say, yep, start your auto pass. Show me your green screen. So the student starts auto pass, shows a green screen on the Chromebook for maybe across the room, and that teacher didn't even have to move from that instructional area that she was at. That student could close the device, leave it on their desk, or maybe put it on the teacher's screen and then be able to see that. So now we can see all that information on the dashboard. And then this is very important for our administrators in our building, our hall monitors, our SROs to be able to see this, because if we toggle on all passes, we will be able to see all students in our building. And so we can see that Kim is out in the hallway and she is marked as yellow because she's past that long running rule. Okay. Now, if we happen to have a lockdown and say, teachers, please secure your room, secure students around you. If Miss Sherry happens to be by these 100 hallway bathrooms, she can sweep both students into her room and then hit end on her dashboard. That way we will know that what teacher checked those students in, and we can account for those students really quick and easily by looking at ended passes and seeing that history for that. Okay. Now, as we kind of transition with Cadence coming back to the classroom, how do we end that pass? Well, three different ways that we can end that pass. That teacher could end that pass on the dashboard really quick with one click on the dashboard. But if that teacher's out roaming around the room, she could go to the device and then type in that pin. That's where our pin would come in great for our substitute to end that pass as well. And if it is an auto pass, that student could grab that device off that teacher desk or open that Chromebook up, hit stop on the device, and then that ends the pass frame for that. Okay. Now, from here, I wanted to show you real quick as we look at Kim here out in the hallway. If we look at this blue bubble right here, and the student has this bubble, but it's red, we can see the pass history for the day. So the days of sharing that Google Doc to see and track movement on Johnny because we need to set up a behavior plan, our system does that for us. So we can see where that student came from, where they went to, and how much time out of instructional time. So Kim here has missed an hour and 50 minutes of instructional time. So we probably need to have that crucial conversation with her for that. Okay. Now, so moving on to from now passes on to our appointment passes. But real quick, we do have a digital ID built into the system. What's great about this is that we can use a barcode or QR code, and we can also download that digital ID and print that off for students to have availability. We see schools using this for lunch line, or library book checkouts, or maybe even that local sporting event, or even those dances and stuff for that too as well. Now, moving on to our last one that I want to address is appointment passes. Appointment passes are very unique in that it creates a future pass for an appointment to come into play. So essentially, we can do this on a daily, weekly, monthly um, event. Maybe that daily sugar check of the diabetic student to the nurse. Maybe that weekly counselor check in of that student for that. Or maybe we just want a one-off event, or maybe we have a parent call in saying, hey, do you need Johnny at 2 o'clock for a dentist appointment? And so the secretary puts that in there and tags that teacher so then they will notify. So 20 minutes before that appointment, a pass comes into play to be notify the student as well as the teacher. And then 5 minutes before it comes up on the dashboard and waiting for approval to go to that destination for that. Now, as we can see here, there are a couple of things in here of after-school detentions, and that's going to lead me to my next point, is going to our premium features. So all the stuff that you've seen up to this point is our core version of Pass. We do have what's called a premium version, which includes tardy management and visitor management. Tardy management allows the administrators to set up consequence ladders, whether it be late to class or late to school, or a combination of both. And once a student gets to a certain infraction of that step, they will get assigned a detention that is set up by the administrative team. And then once they put that on the detention calendar, then those detentions will be assigned whenever those students hit those infractions on the step. One of the things that the administrators love on this is that it helps to automate that system of assigning those detentions. Plus, we then have accountability because the student can visibly see that on their dashboard of Pass and be able to see those reminders coming up 20 minutes before as well as 5 minutes before. Now, with our visitor management that's fairly new as of August, this brings in our setting to where we can actually, we can actually see check-ins and reports through the day. We'll be able to scan those licenses of those visitors that are coming in, if that's a selection that the school wants to have. That will look at the National Registry of Sex Offenders and be able to signal any discrepancies in that search. And then as well as look at who is the safe and secure adult to check that student out for the day. Okay. Now, as I close up here, and I want to thank Karen so much as one of our great partners for Securely with that secure content technology. So they help us out with a lot of different things, and you will be valued as a partner with her for that. Now, we do have another product called our Classroom, Securely Classroom, which is our classroom device management software. And we're so excited because we now have an integration with Pass and Classroom. So I'm just going to give you just a really quick preview of what that looks like. And so with that, on the classroom device management, as we see on their screen here, we can see the students' screens and see what tabs they have open. But now we have the ability to see if a student is out on a pass, what time they've left, are they on their way, and we can all see the visibility. And also we can approve passes on the dashboard of Classroom. So streamlining this for our teachers that are already burdened enough as it is. And so that helps out those teachers for that. Now, with all these great products that we have, again, Karen is the one to contact. I just want to share her information with her. I am thankful to be a partner with Karen and Secure Content Technologies. So on your screen here, you see that you can reach her on her email and phone number. Again, thank you so much for your time. And Karen, thank you for all you do to help out securely.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it very much, and look forward to speaking with you all soon.